Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to be checking out the Masters of the Universe Origins Webstor, Evil Master of Escape. Yeah, this is a really great figure to be getting in the Origins lineup. I don't know why, but Webstor is one of those characters I always kind of forget about. And that's super not fair because he's a really fun character. I mean, he's a spider guy, for goodness sake. And he's got a pretty great action feature, which apparently is still intact, as you can see by the little blurb right there that says, make him climb up his line. Now, one thing that's pretty cool about this guy is he's actually wearing his armor in the packaging. If you guys remember on the vintage figure, the armor was so big and bulky, it was off of the figure in the box. So he's actually wearing his armor. Also, he's a hefty guy. Like, this package feels considerably heavier than the other figures, so it must be because of that backpack there. So I'm excited to check it out. But first, let's go and take a look at the back of the box there, where once again, you can see some gorgeous artwork up at the top of Webstor doing battle with Buzz-Off. You can see like this great beehive-like motif in the background, which is fantastic. Just absolutely gorgeous artwork on these packages. And then down below that, we've got the cross-sell there showing other figures available in this wave and demonstrating how the action feature works. I love how they're using Castle Grayskull in there too. So looks like it works just like the vintage toy. Exciting. So let's go ahead and get Webstor pulled out of this box and we will get a closer look at him. All right, so let's dive in and take a closer look at Webstor. So if I bring in the tape measure, of course, you can see that the figure stands just shy of 6 inches tall. In fact, he feels a little bit taller just because of the little spikes there that are on top of his head. But the figure itself is in that 5.5-inch scale to fit in with your vintage Masters of the Universe figures and the Origins line here. He definitely has that very vintage feel to him. And honestly, this is a great looking figure. I don't know what it is, but when I got this guy under the lights, that deep blue color of him just really pops on this guy. He's a little bit more colorful than that of the vintage. I mean, he was always a dark blue, but that one felt a little bit more drab, while this one just pops a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe you prefer like the more drab look to him, and I could totally understand that since he's like a cave-dwelling spider type character. But I don't know, man, these colors just work so well for me. You got the bright red of the belt and the eyes that are just like glowing out there. I think he's a really slick looking action figure. Now, of course, the big thing with him is his backpack, and you can see he is holding onto his hook right now. This is all attached to the armor. It's not going to come off. The plastic of the armor feels very much like the vintage one. You got that much harder plastic that's used for the pack there, as well as the front armor. So that's kind of interesting because a lot of the armor pieces we've been getting have been that softer, pliable plastic, whereas this one feels much more like that of the vintage, and that's probably because it had to house the mechanism for the pulley system that's going to work with the hook and everything here. So before we get to all that, let me just go ahead and go over articulation and everything. It does function exactly as you would expect it. You could still remove the head from the ball joint if you want to. You can pop the arms out of socket at the shoulders. They can move forwards, backwards, go inwards, outwards, swivel at the elbow, bend at the elbow, swivel at the wrist, hinge at the wrist. Swivel at the torso there, can go side to side. You can also remove it there. Legs can go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivel at the knee, bend at the knee, swivel at the boot cuts, and then the ankles can move forwards, backwards, rock side to side. A lot of shared parts with Skeletor here. The body is just a Skeletor body, essentially, which is very, very cool, just like on the vintage toys. So we got that brand new head there, and then, of course, the armor with his crazy accessories. So let's talk about this. His whole feature is that he can climb. And this is supposed to be like the grappling hook or webbing or whatever you want to call it. He's a spider type character. But we do have this grappling hook. You can see it can rotate at the top, which is probably good. So you can position it however you want to if you want to hang it on something. And it's not going to get things tangled up there. And then we have a string that runs through the backpack, comes out on the bottom. And it's got a nice little handle there for your thumb and index finger so you can pull it so you can make him climb. I want to talk about this first because one of the things that I really like is that the grappling hook is made of a much stronger, much thicker plastic when compared to the vintage one. And the same can be said about the rope. The rope is a thicker, stronger rope. If you look at the vintage Webstor toys, the rope is very thin, almost floss-like. And it has a tendency to be broken a lot, and the hook has a tendency to be found broken a lot. So these feel a little bit more sturdy, and I like that quite a bit. And this works just like the vintage toy. So basically, if we, were to hook the hook on anything. Let's just hold it in my hand for right now. And then as you're pulling the string at the bottom, that makes Webstor climb up the rope. Check that out. It's a very simple technique, just a very simple pulley system, but you can see it works really well. Look at that. So we got Webstor climbing up the rope. Super, super fun. So it's a really great action feature. It's cool that they kept it intact because this is one of those characters where I feel like the action feature is really part of the character. It's part of what made the vintage toy cool. So it's pretty neat that it's still there. Now, the one thing I can say is that it could get annoying for display purposes of what to do with all this string and what to do with this hook. Now, I did show you that you can just put the hook in his hand if you want to. One of the things that they added to this particular version are these little hooks on the side of the backpack that you can see there. That's not on the vintage one. And those are there so that if you want to, you can actually kind of wrap the string around a little bit so that way you can kind of have somewhere to put all that string so it's not just hanging loose or draping down on your shelf. In fact, I've been able to even get this kind of wrapped tight enough with the hook where like you could bring the hook around and find a way to just kind of like store it on his back there. Now it kind of has to hook over his shoulder or the top of the backpack. There's no real place to actually clip the hook. If there was one thing I would add, it was something where you can actually like clip the hook to the backpack or something, right? Pop it in place. And the only reason I say that is because he does come with one more accessory in the form of an orange version of that Castle Grayskull blaster, just like on the vintage toy. And if you're going to get him to hold that, he doesn't have another hand for a hook because he's got that open Skeletor hand on the left. So you could kind of just drape the hook there if you want to, but you can see he's not getting a good grip on it. We run into the same problem that the vintage figure had. So while I do appreciate we have the options with these added little notches on the side for tying the string around, extra step of adding a hook to actually attach the grappling hook here would have been even better. But as it is, this is still pretty nice. And this is a really nice figure all the way around. All right, guys, it's comparison time. Let's go ahead and stand him alongside that vintage counterpart there so you can see what I was talking about with the colors, but otherwise they are very similar looking figures. And we're going to go ahead and show them alongside the Masters of the Universe Classics version, which added those extra spider legs to make them even creepier looking. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Webstor. Honestly, I really like this figure. I think he's a very cool looking character. I personally really enjoy the gimmick on this guy, and I'm glad that we got him in the line already. He was a pretty simple one since he's mostly a Skeletor body. They just had to give us the new backpack and the new head there, but seriously, he makes for a really fun addition to the collection. So these guys are hitting store shelves right now. This is actually the previous wave, so you can find them at places like Target if you're lucky. I got mine through BigBadToyStore.com, so definitely check all your sources. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.